Hey folks, Scott Rogan here, and joined with me,
Andrew Poole.
yep, so we're the fellas behind Rogue Home Cinema, custom designing and building theatre rooms for people's homes.
Excellent. Would you like a chip?
Why not? So this is pretty cool. So what we've got here is actually a DLP chipset. Let's have a close look. You saw it in the thumbnail. Jump straight into it. You can see those little
Spin it around.
mirror
Spin it
there.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually the
Some of you might recognise that. It looks very much like a CPU on the other side, or a CPU connector. Or base.
So this is, I mean, you're in Sydney, trying to keep up. You're in Melbourne for the PHX thing. Then you're in Sydney last week.
Sydney with Barco, yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Barco Projection, who are these guys? Give us a rundown.
Okay, so Barco was founded in 1934 in Belgium. Barco actually stands for the Belgium American Radio Company, and that's how they kicked off. And they have moved through a few technologies, but ultimately arriving at being the kings of projection. And anyone who's in the commercial cinema space knows.
Yeah, 100%. So you've got actually, I think is it 70% ish of the commercial cinemas out there in the world are actually driven with a Barco projector. So this is all the new digital cinema stuff around the planet.
Absolutely. And look, the Barco projectors, I have to say, are absolutely amazing. They can do things that no other projector, that I know of anyway, can do. And they have some amazing capabilities.
Yeah, so they've created Barco Residential about, I don't know, what, 5 years ago or
Something like that. I
Yep.
don't know the exact date.
So typically a commercial or even a production house sort of brand. So the sort of projectors that a color and video team would actually work with as a professional. I know there's a few big names like Michael Bay has Barco Projection in his home cinema. Michael Bay, of course, the director behind Transformers
and many other things. Yeah.
Many other movies that have a lot of explosions. So yeah, real professional grade product, and yeah, really exciting that they're now fleshing out a residential lineup, and of course, residential now has ultra HD capability content, and therefore there's a big push towards manufacturers creating products that can actually support and play that back.
Absolutely. The big thing here is that where Barco are going, and there are other players doing this as well, of course, is into the laser domain. So with the Boulder and the Loki projectors.
Okay, they're the two models.
Yeah, they're the two models.
Flagships.
Yep. The ones that are sort of more, I guess, home theatre oriented. There is another one, the Woden.
Yep.
These are laser projectors, and they have significant light output, but that's also related to tuning, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, cool. So these models are UHD designed machines. So they're designed around not just HD video, but the 4K pixel res.
Yes.
So that's the new DLP chipset.
Yes.
Which use a few tricks to getting a solid 4K pixel uniform on the screen. And they're laser driven. And there's another really cool feature I love with these things as well. Obviously, we love our CinemaScope screens, which is, of course, the super wide, the anamorphic style of viewing. And these guys have gone one step further than anyone else on the planet with how they do CinemaScope. Now, I know like JVC have been zooming for some time, so they actually zoom out the image to meet the width of the screen. And we kind of ignore the black bars, and they zoom back for 16 by 9 or your more typical content. What are Barco doing to address CinemaScope video?
CinemaScope chips. So we're talking full resolution CinemaScope. The chip in the Boulder is 5120 by 2560, if I remember correctly, and it has the ability to reproduce pure CinemaScope in the equivalent 4K resolution.
Wow. So the little chip that we showed off before, which is this one's a 16 by 9 chip, which is probably obvious by looking at just the geometry of that if you're into TV. So that means the actual chipset, the little mirrors, DLP use little mirrors, alternating, is actually, so they've actually, from what I believe, they've bolted on.
Mm.
So they've got two DRP chipsets side by side to get the width. And obviously they flag it off to where I think it was at 2.37 to 1 ratio for their CinemaScope chips.
They have an amazing ability to be able to define and modify your format as well. So if you want everything to appear as 240 to 1, you can say, I want my 237, 235, 239 all to be scaled to that. And it does it really, really well.
Wow. So yeah, so when we talk about CinemaScope, these sort of no set standards, and anyone that's in probably most industries know that there's never really any set standards. But CinemaScope's anywhere from about 2.35 width to 1 in height, to typically 2.4, but there's even some variances around that.
Other weird ones as well.
So 2.37 sort of sits in the middle of the most common formats. That's kind of become the more industry standard, if there is one, is the 237 to 1, which obviously Barco's chose. And Barco don't do things by halves. There's a lot of R&D, there's a lot of effort behind their products, from the studio to commercial and now home. So it's pretty fair to say that that's probably the right format to go for.
Yeah, the impressive thing with Barco, we had Thomas from Barco, and we had Daniel there as well, who's one of their business.
Right, so these guys flew in from, was it Norway? Or
yeah, I think Daniel had been perhaps over in the US, forgive me if that's wrong. And yeah, Thomas had come over from Belgium. Yeah, so which is where, of course, Barco's headquartered.
Yeah.
And they were running a technical session in Australia. And because we're installing Barco projectors, we wanted to make sure that we were.
Yeah. So we did a Bowder earlier this year, which is a laser-driven CinemaScope format. And actually, another cool thing again is the lens systems, right? Barco.
Yeah, look, anyone who's been involved in calibration knows that there's certain things you can't do. You can't keystone a projector without dramatic loss of picture integrity. Well, you can with the Barco, and in fact, their ability to warp and blend images is part of their trademark. It's what they do, and technically, you could almost wrap their image around a pole. They had the projector there fired up into two walls and a ceiling, and then just by giving it a set of instructions, moved the image over squarely onto a screen sitting on the wall. What they can do with the optics on these is phenomenal. The optics are all high quality glass. They have this amazing, it's like Star Trek. They're the only projectors with a warp drive, right?
Yeah.
And so this warp engine they have is phenomenal. Not so applicable to us because we like to get the optical path perfect. And so we don't really.
So this
need
is
that.
really a digital algorithm for doing the warping and stuff. With obviously then, regardless of what pictures the digital or the chipset's sending out, it's always going through the quality lens.
Yep.
So the warping and the blending is really a digital manufacture of what comes out.
Yeah, I don't know the exact process they use, and I'm sure they probably wouldn't give that away anyway. But certainly it has massive capability. And one of the things that we're really interested in, you and I were talking about recently, is digital art. And so we've seen that by installing barcodes, for example, in a wall onto a rear projection screen, because of the amazing things these projectors can do, we can do things like design digital art into homes, the likes of which very few people have ever seen.
Yeah, wow, that's an interesting space. I mean, obviously we've seen LCD screens used for, menus at a cafe, and we're starting to get into art, and then with projection, we're talking about massive scale and manipulating around 3D objects, which your TVs can't do that. So projection's given us that whole new dimension.
And combining multiple projectors to give you like a 10K screen.
Far out.
So these guys can do amazing things. But for what we do, what we're looking for is lots of power to get our space. So we're interested in the 2020 color space and accuracy on the screen. And so that's sort of the reason I went over to Sydney to talk to these guys, because
home cinema.
We're trying to nail, as always, we're trying to perfect everything we do in the home cinema space.
So with that in mind, the warping and banding, they can take it or leave it, because we get our projectors exactly in position. So we're going to utilize every single pixel in perfect geometry against the screen.
Absolutely.
That calculation is obviously done at the engineering side of a home cinema. Our MyMax cinemas certainly go through all that whole process. And And that's the cool thing. So with the lenses that Barco use, a lot of the brands have a set lens or lens structure really, and you can sort of zoom it in and out quite a fair way to suit most sort of rooms, and that's all you get.
Yep.
With Barco, you order the lens based on the throw distance.
Yep.
So the lenses that they have available only do a very short range of zooming. It's not a one-trick pony. These things are really
You
precise.
specify for the room.
Yeah.
And for those of you who aren't aware, we just sort of flick back very quickly. On the projectors that do the zooming, very convenient, but you have to remember, if you are zoomed to get CinemaScope with a 16:9 projector, you're losing about 30% of your light output and your pixels. So unless you're using an anamorphic lens, but just be aware that you do pay a price.
Yeah,
for that zooming.
Yeah. So we've got CinemaScope chipsets, the ultimate. There's more light, there's more pixels, and the algorithm of using those extra pixels sound like a walk in the park for Barco, considering they can wrap pictures around the pole.
Absolutely.
Though of course, anamorphic lenses. It's another good point though. So we can also get the CinemaScope shape by projecting a normal 16:9 picture or chipset through the lens, which can either, well, let's say run with expansion, expand the image out wider. Of course, for that to be successful, the black bars need to be removed, so the projector will stretch the picture up, use the entire chipset, then the lens stretches it out. So that's how we're certainly doing things 10 years ago and beyond. That was really the only option, right? Was using lens systems.
And we were very early adopters, and we had at that stage a very good and strong working relationship with Panamorph, and we were putting in CinemaScope screens before most people knew what they were. So.
And look, when we went scope, because I had a little showroom for some time, a little bit more retail-y than what we do today, and we had a lot of people come through and check out what we were doing. And soon as we went CinemaScope, we're talking a 3.3 meter wide screen from around say a 4 meter viewing distance, I think, in that room. So it was really immersive, and everyone was just quite, this when Blu-ray came out as well, so the resolutions there, we had a Runco projector there at the time, so a good amount of light output. They're not around anymore. Thank goodness Barco Residential's come out. Wow, this is just like being in the movies. And before that, people were like, oh yeah, it's cool, it's a big screen, there's some sound, but we weren't really nailing that whole effect. And that was our whole purpose, was to be as good as the movies. But fast forward 10 years, we're better than the movies. I frequent IMAX quite often, and we're chatting about your jazz listening in a previous video, calibrating your reference point, and I go to IMAX quite a bit because my partner needs to see the latest movies. So I can't do that at home, like as they come out. But yeah, the IMAX is obviously really a leading cinema. I mean, I know there's some Dolby Vision stuff out of the US. Haven't seen that yet. I think it's 2 of them. But IMAX is really quite cutting edge. But there they've got, sure, it's a big screen. They've got lots of light. In fact, at our cinema in Perth, they run 2 projectors simultaneously, overlapping to get the light output. And but it's a 2K resolution. Contrast, mind you, I don't think is the best. Like the depth of black level isn't as solid as our anniversary JVC, which has massive contrast.
Can't see it up there. It's the Ferrari red projector above our.
Pretty cool.
Pretty nice, yeah. And the picture, by the way, is devastating.
It's phenomenal. It's a UHD projector. And look, they're not running HDR. They do have, mind you, DCI color space. That's something that we're just getting now at home. It's something cinemas have had over us. But from where I was sitting, which isn't right at the front, it's not right at the back, it's sort of the front of the middle section, you can make out the pixels. And that's sort of what really drove the whole 4K thing, was to try and get 4K happening more towards commercial cinemas to get rid of the pixels, because it's just not nice. But we've already got that at home. And technically, for our viewing distances and the way our chipsets work, we sort of don't have such a big issue with pixel viewing or pixel peeping resolution anyway.
No, we're certainly on top of that. So, so the interesting thing was to go across there, and what we were trying to do was find out how we can extract the best performance out of these amazing projectors. And because we've installed them, and we like to be able to measure and prove that the work we've done is valuable. So calibration is part of our lifeblood.
100%, yeah.
And so we started working on calibrating this projector, and we decided that there was a few things that we weren't quite perhaps happy with or didn't really understand at the time.
Oh,
So
our install earlier
yeah,
this year.
sorry, yeah, on the Boulder,
Mm.
and so that's obviously why the trip to Sydney, and to discover more and more about these products and how to extract the very best performance.
Yeah, look, the guys really, when they get something right, you know, like it's world class.
Mm.
And the UHD thing, we've seen the Japanese guy really start to nail it now. The JVCs, the Sonys, it's about their 4th generation of Ultra HD projection, maybe more like 5, and we're starting to see it really work. And the Bowder out of the box, it wasn't really quite ready to go. We had some software updates, and they're actually working on a really big release, I think, really soon, which should see our HDR really glow.
Yep.
And the color wheel.
Yeah. So I have to do a bit of a shout out to Barco, because I must admit their support's been great. You know, we've been able to talk with them and communicate with them really well, and hence we've had some recent deliveries, which I hand carried back from Sydney. It's going to be a bit hard to show you this. We're not actually willing to open it. It's in
like a foily type half clear plastic thing. It's a static shielded bag, so we're not going to touch this puppy. Though this is the new DCI color wheel for our Bowder that we installed earlier in the year. So tell us the difference between standard HD color, i.e. Rec 709, DCI color, and then these 2020 color. And how color wheels sort of work.
So in simple terms, when we had HD, Rec 709 was a percentage of the available color spectrum that was available to us to reproduce. And then
so you've got real life color, and then you've got what's actually in the TV.
segment that we can reproduce with a projector. So you've probably seen the graphics, and we'll try and attach one to this video. And you'll see that there'll be like a triangle area, and one of them will be Rec 709, and then you'll see a larger triangle area, and that will be DCI or P3, and then the extents, the limits of it are pretty much almost totally encompassed by what we call the 2020 color space. That's pretty hard to reproduce, because we're talking about pure primaries at red, green, and blue, and that's still a challenge. But the best of the best projectors now are creeping towards that DCI color space, which is still fantastic. And Barco have 3 color wheels: the T, the M, and now the P3.
Right.
DCI.
Yeah. So with the color space, obviously, to get perfect spectrum of color is such a huge resolution and amount of data and technology to capture. Obviously, the Society of TV and Video Engineers needed to settle on something that was possible, which is Rec 709. Now, commercial cinemas, when they went to digital, they settled on a larger color space than what just normal TVs were running, as you'd expect. This is a more premiere experience. So they stretched their color out to DCI, which I guess is close to what the film was performing at.
Yep. Well, the D and C is digital cinema. Yeah.
So so we're really sensitive to color. Most of us are sensitive to light, so brightness and dynamics, shiny things. Funny that people like shiny things. Had to just point that out. And then color and natural and wide range of colors. That's why commercial cinema does look really natural and clear. They got a lot of light. They got a lot of beautiful color.
Actually, I'll just throw in, you know about this already, but for the audience, this is an interesting thing. I have a TV at home. It's a really old Pioneer Plasma. And a friend came, and the interesting thing is the Plasmas are always renowned as really great TVs. And this thing has good dynamic range, good color for an original HD TV. But the interesting thing, the resolution is
720p or something.
Yeah, it's not even that. 1366 by 768 or something. And it wasn't the resolution they were looking at.
Yeah.
You know, because the picture was great.
So you saw light impact,
Yeah.
solid color,
Yep.
amazing picture. Thought it was 4K.
Yeah, and
Actually
it's
had nothing to
nowhere
do.
near it,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, interesting thing. You know, people are attracted to good quality images and resolution. Yes, it helps, but it's by no means that biggest measure.
The primary component. Yeah. So the interesting thing with DLP technology, which the Barco only run with DLP
Yes.
technology. So we got the three models of projector. So the difference between the models all actually are based around the color wheel.
Yes, yeah.
So what are they trying to achieve? What are they doing to, I guess, ultimately reach more accurate color on one side and more light output
Yeah,
on
so
the
there
other?
is a direct trade-off. If you start off with, hopefully I've got this correct, the T color wheel, then you're going to get lots and lots of light output. You know, you're talking about getting over 4,000 lumens on the screen.
Right, and this is because they actually, I think they run
So what
light.
happens is, as it spins, as the laser shoots basically between the two color segments, it creates a yellow section, a bit like the old
Sharp
TVs,
produce
I
the
guess,
quad
the
pixel.
quad
Yeah.
pixel TV. But it puts a lot of light on the screen, which is great, but we sacrifice color accuracy.
Right.
So
So the
yep.
the N models for media.
Media,
M for
yep.
media.
Yep.
So if you've got a big games room, a lot of ambient light,
Yep.
and you just need to blast the screen with light output. Because again, most important thing, if you don't have a great amount of light, no one's going to think it's special. So you have something with great color accuracy but low light in that environment, it's going to suck.
Yep.
Yeah.
So and then finally, as you go through the color wheels, you arrive at the brand new, recently arrived DCI or P3 color wheel. This is the most accurate, but we know that we will sacrifice light output. However, we're talking about a thing that has light output by the spades.
So 3 or 3,500 lumens of light output from the Ballard CinemaScope chip of light return.
Yeah, and that wasn't even with the laser cranked up at full.
Yeah.
So this thing can really put out some light.
So for HD video, to kind of put that number into context, we want 14-foot lambits minimal light output for a cinematic environment. Nice dark room, white screen. 30-foot lambits works really well for HD.
Yeah, if you get too much in a dark, light controlled room, then it actually starts to get painful on the eyes.
I think, what did we get in this room? You did the calibration.
Oh, quick pop quiz. It was over the 30s.
It was in the 30s?
Sorry, don't remember exactly. But yeah, it was higher than expected. And this little puppy, this JVC DILA, actually pumps out quite a lot of light.
We got a good high gain white screen, so we got plenty of output. We've just been demoing this room for the last few weeks, and people are like, we just had the menu of the Blu-ray on the screen. They're like, whoa. They can just see the text. They go, text is just... So it's looking fantastic, the light output in here.
So what we have to do with this is this has to be installed in the projector, and we have to go through the calibration process. We will probably increase the light output to compensate for the fact that we're going to get some loss. But we are then
crank the laser up. It's nice we've got some headroom.
So we've got some headroom to correct for that. And we're expecting great things out of this.
So this means, this is the UHD kind of component. So the DCI color space is the color space component of UHD, 4K and beyond, because we've got the CinemaScope chip. With the color, we've got more color shading in UHD, so that's in there. And then we've got frame rate. And then really the hero of Ultra HD is really the high dynamic range capability.
Absolutely, yeah. So Barco again have gone a long way to making sure that everything's correct. They've identified some issues. There was some, I guess you call it, incompatibilities between the Texas Instrument chipset and you know, and
it's really interesting. So the Texas Instruments, it's the only part in a Barco projector they don't make. Is the chipset, and that comes from Texas Instruments out of the US. Invented the technology, bloody phenomenal and reliable as well. Like,
I can't believe I'm holding, I don't know how many thousands of mirrors in my hand. I mean, my brain still, you know, I understand how it works, but I don't.
How they do that?
That still spins me out. But yeah, so I can't remember exactly what the problem was, but there was an issue with the implementation of the Texas Instrument chipset. and Barco are resolving that.
So they're like writing their own software to drive the
chipset. Yeah. And then they've actually found the same thing with the EDID signals from Apple TV. These guys tear everything down. Yeah, a bit like us, I guess.
Yeah.
They tear everything down to make sure that it's absolutely correct. And these guys are rolling out firmware faster than you could possibly imagine. So I'm really excited. We've got great optics. We've got great light output. We've got the DCI color wheel. Once we get this all plugged in and running, I'm really keen to see the finished product.
So we haven't really even seen yet the Bowder projector running in all its glory in HD, UHD. So we'll definitely do some screenshots, some videos. I'm not sure what resolution this camera is to try and actually show that. But yeah, that's going to be a really cool day, which we're marked for hopefully late this month.
Yep.
We'll get back out on site and we're just going to boost up that installation with all the new software, all the new tech.
So yeah, look, if you're looking for the best home cinema projector in the world right now, the name's Barco. And the one thing you can be assured of is that once you get involved with Barco, that they're there with you on that journey. And they've certainly been with us, and you know, we know now that their philosophy matches ours. They're looking to make sure everything is absolutely perfect, and I for one am excited. You know, we are JVC fans because we can get great results out of those projectors.
To sort of weigh in on some of those factors is Barco's all exciting. They start for a UHD projector around $50,000, guys. So Australian money, AU. So and the low key's up around 100-ish grand Aussie. So they're really, really serious players. This is, you know, the kind of the Bentley, Maserati of the projection world, and the prices reflect that. Hence why we do love our Japanese friends, the Sonys and the JVC in particular, that are giving us a massive dose of that new technology, light and output. You know, for a fraction of the price, about 10 grand. So, you know, these horses for courses, of course.
Of course. When we eventually let this thing out of the you know, it's going to be exciting. So, you know, if you've got the money, pony up and go for Barco, and you won't be disappointed.
Awesome. All right, well, there's a wrap from the Andrew's recent exploration with the Barco guys there in Sydney. Hopefully, guys, that's inspired you a little bit, demystified a few of the things happening with, you know, the way the technology is evolving. If there's any questions, hit us up. We brush over some real technical stuff. And if you know, we can easily drop in some links and things.
Always happy to answer questions, folks.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching.